Welcome to King Lizard's Game Lounge and my first impressions video for Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands on Xbox One. This is a game that I put a lot of hours into so far, 20 plus hours at this point, and I've also played a majority of the game's hardnesses as well as single player and co-op player experiences. Now, as a single player game, you have free AI that work with you. You can command them tactically to do things within the game world. They're not perfect AI, but they are pretty good AI at doing what they do. I have seen a lot of negative reports reference single player experience within this game. I actually disagree with those. I think it's actually pretty well done, and the AI themselves, although they can be a little dumb at times, majority of the times do a reasonable job. It is a fantastic co-op experience. Now, when you introduced human players into your gameplay, you lose the AI entirely, so it literally is a human only experience as a fire-based team. So you will have either 2, 3 or 4-man tactical fire team in order to handle the various challenges and missions that the game world presents. Now, mission wise, there are a lot of things to do within the game. There are masses and masses of side missions, and there are even a huge number of story missions. There's nearly 30 cartel to take out in this game, and that is all relative to story mode, so it's a very big story mode. There isn't a huge amount of story FMV that I'm seeing at this point in time, so full motion video story for instance, but it kind of builds up tactical information as you're doing things within the game. You get told of your progress, that opens up new missions, and you get new targets and stuff in order to dissemble the cartel, which is the whole purpose of your fire team within Bolivia. Now, when we come to Bolivia, Bolivia is an amazing looking game world. It is seriously probably the most detailed game world I've ever seen. You can be flying across open fields and you'll see all these fine small details, little huts, tractors, hay bales, you name it. These guys have put it in the game, and the detail is just stunning, much in the same way it was within the Division. A good example was I was flying over a field and I saw a flare go up, so I thought I'd investigate. So as I got closer, I noticed that there were 2 kind of sets of guards communicating with each other through flares, probably some kind of drugs exchange or drop-off or something. And as I came down, I was able to take those guys out sequentially and quietly in their various groups. But it's just little details like that that make this such a fantastic and beautiful game. Really, really detailed, and just for the game world in itself, I mean, that's a win. Ghost Recon Wildlands story mode is comprised of 29 cartel targets. Now, within so far the missions that I've done within each of those targets, there are typically 6 missions. So if you imagine you've got 29 targets, each with 6 missions associated to every one of those targets. As an example, I'm not saying that is the case, but the majority at the moment are turning out that way for me. That's over 170 missions for the story-based campaign alone, and that does not include a horrendous number of side missions in the game world that you can do for the rebels in order to get their assistance. You can basically call in rebels for backup, you can call them in to spot enemy, you can call them in to drop mortars on the cartel and stuff. So there's a lot of functionality there in terms of missions. The only argument I would have is that obviously quite a majority of the missions are similar. So there is a danger, whereas within games like the Division and Destiny, where there's a lot of repetitive things that you do, I think there is less repetitive action within Ghost Recon Wildlands than the 2 previous games I mentioned. And the game world in itself just keeps it more interesting because there's so many different terrains and areas that you can tackle these missions, and even if they are the same type of mission, they're not necessarily going to be in the same area of the map or the same type of terrain. Character customization is respectable and very similar in regards to the Division, where as your basic character models are somewhat limited. You've got around about, I think it was about 9 or 10 different heads for each sex, plus also you've got a number of kind of face paints that you can apply to the characters and stuff. The strongest point of the customization for the character comes in regards to their clothing and stuff, and obviously the equipment they wear. There is a huge number of equipment and clothing options, plus colours to boot. The guns are also another massive factor of Ghost Recon Wildlands. You start out with, very few guns, but during the course of the game, guns and gun attachments or accessories are collectibles that you can find through the game world via interrogating targets or investigating areas and finding new information. So that's another nice touch to the collectibles within a world. So you'll gradually increase your armory as you progress through the game, and you'll get to change around guns and play with them. The gun customization is very impressive as well. Each of the attachments you can select individual colors for, so you can have a whole bunch of different camo styles on one gun if you want to do that. There are also a lot of attachments for each gun, so things like muzzles, magazines, scopes, and so on. Now, I'm a big fan of Ghost Recon series. I've played pretty much most of the titles between the course of PC, PlayStation 2, right the way through to Xbox 360 titles, and I was a massive fan of those and really enjoyed them. This, to me, seems like its most natural course of progression for the series, and I think they've actually done a very good job of bringing Ghost Recon back to next generation consoles. I think this was the way it kind of had to go, really, in order to make it just that little bit more interesting. I think that one of the disappointing factors for me is that, for something that's very tactically based, there aren't so many tactical toys, and I understand why they've probably done that. One is because obviously they don't want to cross boundaries with the Rainbow Six series, where you've got kind of underdog cameras and stuff like that. What I would have liked to have seen here was maybe some different mechanics, like breach mechanics, slow-mo breaches, a bit like we had in Modern Warfare 2, for instance, or even the underdog cameras that we had in Rainbow Six Siege, where we could do tactical planning with the AI and stuff. That, for me, would have been a bit more interesting if they could have introduced those types of technologies. Obviously, they don't necessarily belong in a Ghost Recon game. It's normally something you would see in a Rainbow game, but at the same time, I don't think it would have done any harm to have introduced that. As gamers, we're becoming more and more used to the fact that new releases come with the obligatory bugs, and unfortunately Ghost Recon Wildlands is no exception. It does have a few bugs, some of which included constant elevation within a helicopter. Once I got into it, I was unable to stop it going up into the stratosphere. The only thing I could do was fast travel to an area on the map, which, by the way, is another feature I really like about the game world. The game map has a horrendous number of fast travel points once you unlock them, so it saves kind of repetitive journeys back and forth. You kind of choose where is nearest the mission you next want to complete and just kind of fast travel there and grab transport once you're there. But going back to the bugs, the other bug I had, which was a little bit more critical, was the loss of drone and binocular ability. I could not send a drone up to scout the area, and I couldn't use my binoculars to do it either. And obviously for a tactical based game, that's a bit of a showstopper. I haven't had it a huge number of times in the 25 hours I've played. I actually only had that a couple of times, but I do know that my good gaming partner in crime, Dr. V, has also seen that bug as well, and plus a few others. But it's typical bugs you get in a new release. For me, they're not show-stopping bugs. There was something I could quite easily live with. My biggest disappointment about Ghost Recon Wildlands is the lack of detail in the vehicles. And when I say that, I don't mean graphical detail. I mean detail in terms of feedback from the cars when you're driving them. A lot of the cars feel reasonably samey. You don't get any rumble feedback from your controller to suggest the various different terrains you're driving over and stuff. Choppers feel a little bit lame, and again, it's only the sound that you get from the vehicles that kind of give you a feel for them, which I think is a real big missed opportunity when you look at games like GTA 5, where the cars are very distinctive from each other. So I think that was a big opportunity missed and quite disappointing from Ubisoft. I thought that was one of the things they really would have tied down as a must for this type of game, well, given especially the amount of detail they've put into it graphically. Overall though, Ghost Recon Wildlands for me, I think my biggest fear for a lot of gamers, not for myself because I love these types of games, but for a lot of gamers, is that this could get quite monotonous because there are a lot of mission types that are quite similar. I think it will take quite a few hours before it gets monotonous for people, but I think there is a chance the majority of gamers that got kind of fed up with the Division and Destiny do have a risk of getting fed up with Ghost Recon, because again it's kind of doing lots of missions of a similar nature. That said, I personally right now would award Ghost Recon Wildlands 8 out of 10. Please remember to click the like button and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber.
Sorry, got his message out. That should get his people stirred up.
Well done, compadres. My speech was heard all over Bolivia. It is only a matter of time before the people rise up and join our cause. Viva la revolución!